Alright, so I've tried to make this video about 3 times now, and every time something has gone wrong. Either the audio's off, or my colors didn't end up being right, or something stupid like that. So, when I got through this video, I was like, oh, thank goodness it all got done, and then I forgot to make an introduction. Oops. So, sorry, no big introduction today, but we'll be making Mega Banette. If you haven't made normal Banette, then go and make that, because this one is quite a bit harder, or at the very least more tedious. So it's best if you know how to make Banette first and then Mega Banette. So go watch that if you haven't. If you have, then congratulations, you can continue on to Mega Banette. So let us get started. Alright, the colors you're going to need are a gray, a purplish pink, yellow, translucent, and black. Alright, so we're going to grab our gray here. We're going to roll this into a ball. And we're going to roll it just between our fingers right here to make a teardrop. And you're going to need a tool for this part, or some very long fingernails. You can use a toothpick or whatever. I'm using these wax cutting tools. And you're just going to make a slit down the middle of your teardrop here. Just cut it open like that. Then I'm going to pull them apart, and then I'm going to pinch so that they're concaved in. So it looks like that. Next, we're going to get our purplish pink, and we're going to make 2 circles out of it. We're going to roll them into teardrops, really long teardrops. We're just going to stick them together like that. Then, I'm going to open this up a little bit more and just shove it up in there. Now, since this guy does not have a tail to steady him, he won't be able to easily stand. So take that as you will. You can make it a necklace charm. You can make him something to hold him up, a base of some sort. You can make it so his hands are configured so that they balance him on your 3 points. But since he doesn't really have a 3rd point here, I'm just going to make it so that he doesn't stand up. He'll lean against something, just to make it simpler and easier to understand what I'm doing. But my suggestion to you would be to actually make it so he can stand up. So take that as you will. Next, we're going to use our gray. I'm going to roll it into 2 circles. We're going to roll more on one side, on both of them. So it is again another teardrop. Mine are a little big. I like starting out as circles because it's easier to make things proportionate when you do that. So 2 teardrops, and then you're just going to kind of just rub it in there. Just go back and forth as you push down. So it looks like that. Now when you put these legs in, try not to have them touch the edges right here. It'll make it better later if you can. I mean, it's not going to kill you if they're touching them, but it'll be harder to add the zipper later if they are touching the sides there. There we go. Next, we're going to get our gray again. We're going to roll 2 circles. Love that shape. The circle is one of the most useful shapes in clay. It's right up there with the snake and the triangle. Alright, then we're going to roll just one side of them and make it rather long. So it looks like that one's too much. That. Then I'm just going to squish this just a little bit, just barely. Then I'm going to make another slit cut right here, down the middle. Just like I did for the bottom, tear them apart. And just kind of pinch it, using the shape of your finger to help keep it molded. And I'm going to just sharpen up this point right here and right here just by pressing in a little bit more now. Then you're going to do the same to the other one. Squish it just a little bit, cut down it, pull them apart, and pinch it. Beautiful. These are going to be your arms. Now, it's got rather disproportionate hands, so just keep that in mind as you're trying to figure out your proportions here. I'm actually going to pull this up a little bit more just by pinching on both sides and pulling up at the same time, while trying not to collapse this in on itself. Okay, now we're going to get our purple pink again. We're going to separate into two pieces, try and make them as even as possible. Then we're going to make each piece into 3 different balls. You can try to make them the same as possible. If you have one that ends up longer than the others, make sure that is your middle one. Okay, then we're going to roll into a teardrop again, just rolling more on one side than the other, making a snake. Then I'm just going to kind of tip the points here just by rolling it between my fingers. Make that a little more pointy. And then we're going to place them together like that. Just by kind of setting them next to each other and then pinching down so it flattens into each other. You can also pinch in like that, will work too. Now I'm pinching the tips here just to make the claws a little bit more sharp. Okay, then, just like we did for the bottom, we're going to just push this in here. I'm going to open this a little bit more so I can place it in the right spot. I want it right about there. And I'm going to also secure it down with my tool here, and then push these back in. But also try to make sure it does not touch either side if you can. So it looks like that. Then we're going to do the same with this one. Three circles about the same size, roll them into teardrops. Then roll the other end of them. And then set them next to each other. Kind of place it in there. I like where that one ended up, so I'm not going to bother about pulling it apart. Alrighty. Now I'm going to add these on now. I'm going to just roll this a little bit more so it's a little bit further away from the body. Then just push it right on there. If you're making a big one of these guys, I would suggest sticking wires up in the arms just to give it a little bit more structure in it, because they're going to be your weakest point is right here. And any little bit of structure that you can put in there, the better. I'm just going to smooth this in so that transitions a little bit better. I'm also going to do it on this guy too. I'm just going to smooth this in. You don't have to. I just think it makes it look a little bit nicer. I'm going to get my gray again. gonna roll 2 circles. We're gonna split those in half. Roll 2 more circles and then make teardrops out of these. And actually we're gonna place them on the top and the bottom of this. I made mine too big. So we're gonna do that again. I make the 2 circles here right now just to make sure that they end up at about the same size on both sides. So just doing the same thing that I did for the spikes underneath these guys. Right, almost there. So just teardrop, place and kind of squish on at the same time. You can do this before you stick them on. I kind of like to do it after just to make sure I have the right position here. Always make sure to check your reference to make sure you're placing them in the right place. There we go. I'm going to put one arm in front and one arm in back, but I'll probably change those up as I go just to kind of get them out of the way. All right. Next, we're going to grab our gray. Now, if you guys did the normal Banette, not Mega, this is pretty much identical to that. And so you should know what to do. So just go real quickly, circle, kind of pinch, 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 kind of pull it across, pull it over, pull it over, and kind of bring them a little bit further back. There we go. Flatten this just a little bit. I'm going to stick his head on now, just because it's a little easier now than later. It might be hard to smooth your gray in, because it's gray, it has more pigments in it than a lot of the other colors do, so it's harder to attach it, so there'll be more scuff marks than if you were trying to make a transition for white in those, but you can just kind of smooth them out with your finger after you've placed them. That helps. All right, now we're actually going to put on his hair thingy, zipper thingy in the back right now before doing his eyes or any of that stuff. That way we don't mess it up. So I'm going to roll this into a cone or very long teardrop. Then, just like we did for normal Banette, we're just going to kind of pinch it in all sorts of ways, twisting and pulling and pinching randomly, so it does funny things. No, that's too much. Let's just pinch there, pinch here, pinch here, pinch there, pinch there. And then I'm going to just place it on, this time going up. So I'm just going to kind of push it on there, smooth it in so that it's got enough surface area to hold on to it, create a strong bond. Also, if you have wires, I would put one just in the neck where the head and the neck attach, just to give it a little bit more support as well. But if you don't, that should be fine still. All right. Next, we're going to get our pinkish purple. We're going to make the eyes, and just like for normal Banette, roll 2 circles. Mine are a little too big. Try that again. 2 circles, turn them into ovals, squish them flat, and then place them on. Making sure that the bottom is exactly how we want it, because the top will be covered. We're gonna get our black. Gonna roll 2 really, really small snakes. Place that on. Make sure it's touching the bottom, or at least really close to it. Then I'm gonna put some shinies in this guy's eye. So I'm gonna get this. You don't need to do this part. I just kind of like doing it. Getting my translucent, rolling it into a very, very, very thin snake. Just putting it over the black and the purplish pink. All right. Then we're gonna get our gray again. And we're gonna roll it into a snake. Then we're gonna grab it with our fingers like this. I'm just gonna kind of push in so that it gets the shape between the 2 fingers here. Just like you did for the normal banana. Then I'm gonna flatten it. And then place it where I want it to be. Right about there, I think. Then I'm just gonna smooth it on. And smoothing out my smoothing job with my thumb, because my thumb does a better job at that, where my tool here just does a good job at creating a good bond between the 2 so that it doesn't come off. My thumb is more for the making it look like one thing, like it was originally there. There we go. All right. Now this next step is probably the hardest one to get right, and the one that takes the most amount of time, and the one you have to be the most careful on. So this is what makes Mega Banette quite a bit more difficult, more like tedious than normal Banette. So we've got to add all our zippers. So we're going to get our yellow and roll it into a thin snake. Now the reason why this one's so hard is not only do you do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, but you're working with a really soft clay. So yellow doesn't have a whole lot of pigments in it. So it's, for the most part, going to be a very, very soft. So any amount of touching will alter it. It's a little too thin. So you just got to be careful while you're handling the Banette in your hands, while you're making the marks on it, not to squish the parts that you've already done. So I'm going to flatten this just a little bit, just by pretty much tapping like that, pulling it up off the table. Then I'm going to make sure it's kind of pulled off the body because I kind of pressed it on as I was working with it. Oops, my bad. We're going to set that right there and just kind of overlap the gray area a little bit while going over it, if that made any sense. And then I'm going to pinch it off back here so it's hanging off of the gray. And then we're going to do the same on this side. Just kind of lightly placing it until I have it where I want it, and then squishing it a little bit harder down. But it doesn't even need to be squished down that much because, like I said, it's a soft color. Oops. Trying to get it not to stick where you don't want it is the hard part. Like right there. Does not want to go where I want it to. There we go. And pushing it down where I want it to be. All right. Now you can go and do all the zippers right now, or you can make the marks on this one and then move on to the next zipper. I'm going to do that just because I like doing that better. If you're worried about smudging what you've done, then I would suggest putting on the zippers, on the yellow strips all first before turning them into zippers, because that will help solve that problem. Pretty much just to do this, you just make slip marks about as evenly as you can throughout the whole thing using a tool or a fingernail. Sadly, I do not have fingernails. I find they accidentally make holes where I don't want them to be in my clay. So I will be using my tool here. You could also use the lead from a mechanical pencil. It would probably work really well here. Anyways, you just go up over it all, and I'm going to kind of push in a little bit where my stitches or zipper or whatever this is, making it a little bit of an indent to give it one more extra little detail there. It'll help it look like more of a zipper than a scratch or an accident. There we go. So it looks like that. Now we gotta do that to all the parts. So make our snake, press it flat, pull it up. We're going to place it on. Always start in a crevice if you can, a part where you're going to be ripping it apart anyways to get that nice sharp angle. If you start in the middle, like right here, your seam will show. We don't want that. I mean, you can get rid of a seam by smudging it together. That is possible, but why do it if you don't have to? My other suggestion is make a snake long enough to fully do the area that you're doing, if that made sense, to fully cover the area that you're covering, because otherwise you're going to end up with different thicknesses, like a lot of different thicknesses. It's hard to make two snakes in identical thicknesses. It's hard to make one snake identical, but it's easier to do that than it is to make two. So make enough to cover like this and this. If your snake is too small, then crumple it up, make another one. Because just having to make another small snake is more of a pain and harder to get right than just making your snake long enough in the first place. Again, as you're supporting this guy in different ways, as you're making your marks on him, make sure not to squish what you have already done. It is super easy to do that. Because, like I said, your yellow is super, super soft. Honestly, it'd be nice if all clays were the same, but you can use the different softnesses of your clays to your advantage. For example, when I've got a really, really hard color that just crumbles when I use it, I'll add a little bit of white to it, and that will make my clay softer. It's how I save clay that I accidentally left out in the sun. That happens sometimes. I'll just add a little bit of white to it, and it brings it back for the most part. There's some times where you just can't save it, and then you've also got the problem that it will alter your color if you do that. You can always add a little bit of black or a little bit more of a similar color to try to restore your color balance, but it'll never be the same again. All right, now we're gonna make another snake. Flatten it. I'm gonna fix that neck later. All right, so now we've got the mouth. I'm gonna place this right a little bit higher up. Like that. Kind of curve it in on itself to get it a little bit more of a sinister grin. Pulling down the eyes can kind of help with that too. I'm gonna actually wait to make the marks on this one, because next we're gonna do the one that goes up and over the head. So you start right here on the upper eye, you kind of go down that. I'm gonna cut it where it meets the little hair part thingy, just to make it look like it kind of disappears behind it first. Get down to the crack. Then I'm going to, come on. Just trying to get it onto that. Like I said, yellow is sticky. Does not want to leave me. There we go. So then I'm going to wrap this around. Now you can go straight up if you like. You can really put this on wherever you want. I just like to wrap it around because I think it looks better. Just making sure to end on the tip here. I'm going to rip that off. Then kind of flatten it down wherever it ended up. So it looks like that. If you want, you can add a little stitch going from here to here. I've done that a couple times. I kind of think it's a little too much for the face, but if you like, you can do that. So now I'm going to add all the marks. Remember not to squish down here. It's the hardest part. It's not squishing all that work we've already done. All right. Whew. I think his head turned all the way around. Let's put that back. There we go. All right. So now we look and see any damage that we've done with our fingers. We fix it as best we can. All right. Then our last step is to add the little pull tabs. That's what they're called. You make all the pull tabs the same way. You roll a circle, hold one side so it's a teardrop, squish it flat, and then make a slit right here, and then just kind of press it back into itself. There's your pull tab. We're gonna make one for the front here. when I place them on, I kind of like to have them just not even really touching the body that much. Just gives it one more level of awesomeness. I'm going to create another pull tab. Place it right there. And we're going to make another one. Now some areas on this guy have 2 pull tabs and some areas only have 1. So the front here only has 1, there's not one on the back. But each hand, I believe, all the references I looked at, have 2. 1 on each side. So we're going to make 4 pull tabs for the arms. I always liked Mega Banette. It's a really complicated idea, but I don't know. I just always liked how he looked. It's kind of like unzipping a puppet. And it's better than I think some of the other Megas, where they just add like a beard or a mustache and a couple other features and call it good. I feel like Mega Banette had a little bit more thought put into it than just that. But I don't know, maybe you like the bearded Megas. It's all your own opinions. Alright. Ooh, that almost fell out of my hands. 2 more pull tabs and then we'll be done. So we do 1 for the mouth. Just stick it on the end here. You can use your tool to kind of place it down if you're worried about that. And then, last but not least, the one that will always fall off first, the one on the tip of the hair. He's your most fragile. Because everything else kind of has something to support on. This guy is literally just right there. There you go. There is your Mega Banette. Now, like I said, you could have it hanging from something, have it lean against something. You could like put an arm out in front so he's holding himself. Do whatever you want. But congrats, you made it to the end of the video. If you like what I do, please hit the like button and subscribe. It means the world to me. It makes me so happy. So make my day and do that. If you want to see me do a certain Pokemon, leave it in the comment section below, and I'll see what I can do about that. You guys are all the best. See you next time.